Hello everyone, and now welcome to a game, a WFZ or WFZ, depending on where you hail from, going up against Yange. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, well, I'll just refer to them as Night Elf and Undead throughout the rest of this match. We have the Night Elf spawning as in green here on the top right hand side of the map. Meanwhile, WFZ spawning as the blue Undead on the top left. This is Echo Isle 2.2, and I am looking forward to this game as, well, with a larger collection of map pools, classic maps such as even this varied version of Echo Isle does give me a bit of nostalgia. We are looking at a Death Knight going up against a Warden first in this 1v1 matchup. Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in. However you may be watching or listening, well, I appreciate it. Coming back around, Renegade Wizard gonna go ahead and try and engage here. No lightning shield, surprisingly. So are we gonna be trying to pick up perhaps a Forest Troll Shadow Priest as well? That is the question. Even though it is a bit risky going up against that Death Knight who has that Death Coil, able to easily pick off those units. No lightning shield will add a little bit of AoE damage there, as we're looking at the Kobold tanking quite a bit of, or excuse me, the Ancient of War tanking quite a bit of that damage. Warden does get up to level 2. Meanwhile, Death Knight on the bottom left-hand side of the map getting up that Ziggurat. There's that Ogre Magi creep camp getting cleared out, and the Death Knight will be shy of level 3 or level 2 off of this creep camp. This is a 5-3-3 creep camp, and taking a little bit more time than I would have expected to try and clear out, as some of those ghouls are now looking to back away. Alright, charges on the Rod of Necromancy. There are 2 charges still remaining. Good number of skeletal minions, but I think the Ensnare actually caused some problems. Some ghouls and or skeletal minions couldn't actually close in on the distance in time, and then just kind of force and stuck in that spot here. Alright, Warden does have that Crystal Ball, does have Shadow Strike first, could try and abolish magic that skeletal minion. Is he going to try and do that, as the Warden quickly sells that Crystal Ball, picks up a Circlet of Nobility, and is purposely hiding, going to go ahead and land a Shadow Strike on that Death Knight. A complete surprise for WFZ as he backs away. Meanwhile, Forest Troll Shadow Priest gets an abolish magic off on one skeletal minion, and units are now slowly attempting to retreat back here, as the Ancient of War, well, acting as a little bit of a beacon here. Meanwhile, are we going to see a Wisp? There's a detonation, but not much really could be done. The Ziggurat was already completed, and, well, a Night Elf perhaps hoping to remove some of that blight, not quite so lucky. Alright, there's a Shadow Strike. Should look at the Death Coil to try and save that Ghoul, as the Ghoul slowly limbers back home here. Death Knight now down to, well, sub 75 mana, not going to be able to get off another Death Coil, as the Warden is still trying to go after the Ghoul. Ghoul will be protected by that Nerubian Tower, as the Warden, even with Boots of Speed, cannot shake off that slow enough. Meanwhile, back across here, we're looking at the Ancient of War clearing out this 5-3-3 creep camp. Warden is trying to get to level 3 quickly. Level 2 Shadow Strike would deal tremendous amounts of damage, and there is still no Dust of Appearance on the Undead. That Warden has been playing a game of harass and doing an effective job, as we see an Ensnare go down onto a skeletal minion here, could easily get taken out. Meanwhile, we do see nearly level 3 for this Warden. Once we see level 3, perhaps the Ancient of War is going to get it. Yes, there we have level 3 on that Warden. We're now going to perhaps be looking at some Shadow Strikes onto that Death Knight. Death Knight now trying to shake away some of that damage, a little bit of damage over time, as well as the Nightcrawler slowly limbers back too. Death Knight, that's a Death Coil off on that Murloc Nightcrawler to ensure that experience gain, as the Warden still has a decent amount of mana to threaten this Death Knight here. Alright, Tree of Life is already in position here. Ancient of War, did it get taken down? And no, it's still lumbering forward, so to speak, back home, as the tech to tier 2 has already gone halfway. The Expo by Undead already up and running, as the Necropolis now taking the tier 2 as well. Death Knight trying to stay close to home here, continue to clear up all of these bases here, as we do see a Tomb of Relics now being placed down at that Expo. Alright, Army, Forest Troll, Berserker, Dual Forest Troll, Shadow Priest clearing out these Murlocs. Meanwhile, in comes the Warden, gonna pick up these items now and perhaps move along its merry way, as the Ancient of War has pretty much been acting as that tank, living up to its name. And oh, haha. That's hilarious. The shadow melding right there. The Murloc Nightcrawler falling, no way to aggro to wake it up, as the Warden now, well, ventures off here. Perhaps going to try and pick up an invul potion. Nope, that is not going to be it. Now, with this, everyone's economies have been established. It looks like it will be two bases. Clause of attack +4 being left behind. There's a death coil exchange once more. Forest Troll Berserker. Are we going to see some more shadow strikes here as the rest of the army gets into position? A blink in front to get in front of that Death Knight, causing some major problems. Death Knight now down to 117 hit points. Could take a little bit more damage over time. Are we going to perhaps get a blink? Yes, and there's the shadow strike as the Warden finishes off the level 3 Death Knight inside the base here. Forest Troll, Shadow Priest gonna be trying to keep up that Warden as long as possible. Another ghoul gonna get taken out here. Forest Troll Berserker is gonna be able to finish off perhaps a handful of those ghouls. There goes another ghoul as the Warden now sits up to level 4. Could turn back around or blink its way out of this precarious spot. There's that Shadow Strike, and then gonna go ahead and Staff of Teleportation out. Alright, teleporting back out here, Moonwell. This Moonwell is completely full. Drop the Circlet of Nobility, pick it, drink, pick it back up after taking all of these Moonwells, but also needs to use a Moonstone to try and fill up these Moonwells. All the Moonwells are bone dry going into daybreak, not something you want to see happen as a Night Elf player, as Moonwell management is incredibly important. Warden, however, is at tier 2 with a solo hero. That Warden getting bonus experience and could get to level 5 quickly. Also, just as important, clearing up these Ogre Warrior creep camps, and the majority of these difficult creep camps here is going to limit the creep camps that the Lich can actually clear out. Also, we're looking at still no sign of that Death Knight getting resurrected, as the Warden sold the Potion of Greater Mana in exchange for a Pendant of Energy, perhaps? Overall higher mana capacity. Death Knight resurrected at the tavern instead, as we're going after this Rock Golem creep camp. Alright, Rock Golem creep camp could get cleared out pretty quickly. We can see the Warden is getting healed up. Rock Golem now trying to retreat back. Forest Troll, Shadow Priest taking quite a bit of Shadow Strike damage. Well, as the Rock Golem is going to be able to escape back. Nope, not going to be able to escape. And this creep camp will get cleared up. Lich going with a bunch of gargoyles moving around the map. Lich does have Frost Nova first, and should be able to blast many of these lower hit point units in the back. We are also looking at Dryads, as we are going into Druids of the Claw and Tree of Ages now completed into Tree of Eternity. There we are. Warden gonna be getting to level 5 here with that 30% bonus experience, right? Getting every bit of experience it needs to get to level 5. Now with level 3 Shadow Strike, perhaps being able to even pick off a Lich or a Death Knight if they are low on hit points. The Warden, they're going to be at level 5. Let's see what she goes for, as we see the transition into air by the Undead. Now, one of the reasons why Undead opted to go for air, are we going to see a Toma retraining? We are. It is going to be Fan of Knives instead. One of the reasons why we see Gargoyles is because they do not leave behind corpses. By not leaving behind corpses, it really limits how effective the Avatar of Vengeance is. If you're unable to summon up Spirit of Vengeances, well, then that ultimate ability isn't altogether that strong. Lich now going to be in a lot of trouble. Are we going to see some damage done? Yes, we are. Potion Scroll of Town Portal now being transferred right there. Druids of the Claw in position here. Was the Fan of Knives a great call there? 2-0 upgrades, as the Warden was trying to snipe down, unable to get a Shadow Strike onto that Lich. All right. Now, that now that the Warden is also at level 5, it does make sense to try and train up a Panda from the Tavern. Breath of Fire, incredibly effective against the Gargoyles, and there's still an opportunity to do so before the Death Knight and the Lich level up too much. We're looking at the Warden now trying to move around in the back here. There's a blink. Are we going to see a Fan of Knives? There we are. Wow. I don't know how that actually worked out, but pretty much finishing off every single acolyte there as the Warden uses that potion of invulnerability, and now it throws down another Fan of Knives. All right, problems could be had. Are we looking at Shadow Meld timing just absolutely perfect to get into Nightfall for that to be a Shadow Meld there. Gargoyles, however, in position, forcing the Scroll of Town Portal to retreat back. 60 over 80 supply. We're looking at the Pendant of Energy and Circlet of Nobility both being dropped. We should be looking at a Clarity Potion as well, now being used up, picking up an Orb of Venom. So, yeah, very much a solo Warden strategy coming across from Yange here, as the Death Knight and the Lich looking to clear out some more creep camps, perhaps get level 3 on that Lich. Lich, surprisingly though, does not have an Orb of Corruption yet, as we are still at Halls of the Dead and not Black Citadel. Alright, so purposely WFZ purposely staying here, as we're looking at a Fan of Knives doesn't finish off the low hit point Gargoyle there, and that's because the Fan of Knives doesn't do a full 360. There's a little bit of randomness in the Warden. There's another Fan of Knives right there, but unable to finish things off again. All right, gonna try and drop down those items, perhaps use a potion of mana again, and then pick things back up. And here we are, just trying to maintain all of that Moonwell mana management. All right, we are getting up Reinforced Hides. We do not see the Wellspring upgrade anywhere though. So these Moonwells are not going to be refilling at a higher rate or have a higher overall capacity. All right, small window of opportunity. There's a Fan of Knives right there. There's a Scroll of Healing to try and counteract. There's still one more Scroll of Healing on the Lich. There goes a big Frost Nova, taking down a 4-Stroll Shadow Priest as the units are just trying to engage back and forth. Another 4-Stroll Shadow Priest could get taken down. Dryads trying to retreat back as the Warden still in that frontline spot. You can see plenty of damage getting racked up here, trying to turn things back around as the Death Knight now gets up to level 4. Level 4 on the Death Knight means faster movement speed with that level 2 Unholy Aura as the 4-Stroll Berserker trying to retreat back around. Are we going to see more Fan of Knives? Yes, so more ghouls getting taken down. We're looking at more damage getting racked up here as the Warden very, very close now to level 6. Warden continuing to put in blink into position, try to finish off some of those units. There goes another Gargoyle up to 5.9. There's now level 6 as the Warden is low on mana, unable to use that Avatar of Vengeance just quite yet. All right, more Fan of Knives instead, and now just trying to go after all these units. Dryads coming back across 58 supply compared to 53. Both sides in a bit of a precarious situation as both sides can start running away with the game, but a 35 supply army going up against 48. One of those, well, 5 of that supply, however, in a level 6 Warden, which could cause some problems. All right. Now, Avatar of Vengeance couldn't make her way down. There are a lot of corpses here to try to bring up some Spirit of Vengeances and move on forward. Is that what's happening? No, where is that Avatar of Vengeance? All right, trailing behind here. Avatar of Vengeance does last a long time, about 3 minutes. So as soon as the time life is done on the Avatar, it can in fact be resummoned up again. Coming back around, Warden going to try and perhaps blink behind here. There's a Fan of Knives going after one Acolyte, 2 Acolytes already down, a 3rd Acolyte, nope. Acolyte able to regenerate just enough hit points off of the Blight as the Avatar of Vengeance now taking a round of volleys from the Gargoyles. All right, big damage there. Dryads, are we going to perhaps see a rejuvenation? Yes, we do see a rejuvenation on, and the Druid of the Claw now going back into bear mode. However, he's going to get stalled up by a Frost Nova and eventually taken down as well. Warden still playing this like it's the mid-game, trying to clean up all of these Acolytes here, but with the Halls of the Dead continually able to crank out units, that's not much of a problem. This Ancient of War, I'm not quite sure what it was doing down there except getting absolutely beaten up as the Avatar of Vengeance heals back up here. We are looking at, well, reinforced hides now, 2 upgrades from that Hunter's Hall. What's coming up next? That is the question. Death Knight gonna clear out this little bit of creep camp here. Meanwhile, Acolytes continuing to finish or getting, well, pressured here. Ogre Mauler as well gonna deal a little bit of damage as we're gonna see some more damage still racked up. What is going down on, well, bottom right-hand side of the map, Scroll of Town Portal inbound. Army going to be coming inbound as well. In comes the Warden, in comes the Ogre Mauler. Dryads are in position. They're going to be able to launch a little bit of slow poison as the Avatar of Vengeance is trying to rack up damage here. Meanwhile, Warden has double pendants of energy, so we should be seeing more and more mana use as well, just constantly picking up those potions of mana and then well, using up those potions of mana quickly while picking up and dropping off of those pendants to get more effectiveness out of them. Meanwhile, more damage getting racked up in here. We're going to see level 7 now on that Warden. We see an Obsidian statue, but we know Obsidian statues cannot maintain the health of all of these units in this go wide army, as we see another Blink and Fan of Knives. Blink now at level 3, and level 3 Blink, well, recharges extremely quickly and has low mana cost, effectively allowing that Warden to blink in and out of dicey situations. However, that Warden does have a bit of a mana issue in that it doesn't have any. Perhaps going to try and put down those pendants of energy, drink all of this Moonwell juice, uses a Moonstone as well. Are we going to look at the Moonwell upgrade yet? That is going to help, as the Warden already back up to 300 mana after all this time, using the Clarity Potions, well, fairly effectively. 69 supply compared to 57. All right. Avatar of Vengeance looking for some corpses. Undead not providing any at this point and stage in the game, as the Drives are going to engage here. Druid of the Claw in that frontline spot takes an enormous amount of damage as the Gargoyles trying to retreat back away. A little bit of an exchange there, but that opening burst damage from the Undead cannot be ignored. Warden trying to get into position. Are we going to see another Fan of Knives? Yes, we do, but didn't really take down any of those Gargoyles. Many, however, are getting into the red, as we're seeing Scrolls of Healing being used to try and counteract. Level 4 now on that Lich does mean level 2 Dark Ritual, so we could be looking at more Frost Novas on all of these ground units, and when the time comes, as the Warden still trying to finish off more units, are we going to see another Blink and Fan of Knives? We do not. Fan of Knives still on cooldown. There's the Blink, though. There's the Fan of Knives, and that, I believe, that was 3 Gargoyles right there. All right, Warden still chasing after all of those units. He's trying to get into position here. Low hit point Gargoyles purposely hiding in the back, and the Warden still fighting a very strong battle, able to get away. All right, still only 300 maximum capacity on those Moonwells. Main gold mines still have quite a bit of mining to go. 3.5 minutes for Night Elf. Meanwhile, a little bit more for WFZ, since many of these Acolytes have been harassed for so long. Dryads are, well, pretty much trying to prance back here. Are we going to see some Gargoyles getting finished off? Yes, we do. There goes one Gargoyle. There goes another. Avatar of Vengeance with Spirit of Vengeance is going to be able to re-summon up some more units, but the Druids of the Claw are getting taken down. And now with the Lich, with the Death Knight now at 4, and the Lich perhaps getting closer to 5 as well, problems could arise. All right, Slow Poison trying to take down that Death Knight very, very slowly, as the Ogre Mauler is out in front, and he is the slowest unit in the front right there. That could be a problem. There goes a Frost Nova. Warden could try and blink. Yes, does get in front. Are we going to see a Fan of Knives? Still 1 second, 0 seconds. Fan of Knives not used, as the Warden now uses the Fan of Knives to hunt down her prey, or Blink to hunt down her prey, and Fan of Knives to get the job done. Death Knight falls at level 5, and what was perhaps a comeback story for WFZ falls short, at least this time around, as both the Death Knight and the Lich fall at level 5 and level 4 respectively. 50 over 80 supply compared to 63 over 80. Warden, an absolute one-woman army right now. Gonna go ahead and teleport back home, perhaps get a rejuvenation here, and then put down these, put down some of those as well. Perhaps also use up a clarity potion. That would have been a good, smart call while waiting. There's that mana, there's that clarity potion, trying to drink up a little bit more, and now finally picking up everything ready to go. Dryads are, well, trying to poke apart the undead base, take down the Altar of Darkness while it is resurrecting that Lich. Death Knight is already back out on the battlefield, resurrected at the tavern, and now putting pressure on the base over here on the bottom right. Are we going to see a Fan of Knives? Yes, we do. Gargoyle is trying to retreat back here. Avatar of Vengeance now back out on the battlefield, but a Staff of trying to rejoin in on the battle is not necessarily going to work, as it is a long walk all the way across there. Altar of Darkness is going to resurrect that Lich, and it looks as though, well, mining. Oh, Death Knight now staying at level 5. All right, overlay. I don't know where it went. Let me see if I can fix it real fast. All right. Coming back through, Avatar Vengeance, well, making its way to the bottom left. You can see that, well, the Warden continuing this harassment strategy, trying to finish off many of these units again, and taking down these Acolytes one at a time. Spirit of Vengeance also getting summoned up down across here, putting in more pressure. 65 supply compared to 50, and well, normally I would say that's good for undead, being able to mine with no upkeep. But you can see bottom left doesn't have any bases or any mining going on whatsoever. Warden now trying to protect the Expo. We're going to see perhaps a tactical retreat as the Gargoyle is able to retreat back off to the north, but the heroes could be in trouble. Warden perhaps going to try and blink in front again. Does have level 1 Shadow Strike to slow down that Death Knight. There's another Shadow Strike right there. Are we going to see a blink? That is the question, to try to rack up a little bit more damage. Orb of Venom also causing a little bit of damage over time. There is another Shadow Strike, and WFZ says, you know what, I can't stick around. Scroll of Town Portal, Death Knight, well, going to be going up against these Dryads here. Potion of Healing used up by the Death Knight as it does retreat back. Lich now back out on the battlefield. All right, we are still at Halls of the Dead after all this time. No tech to tier 3. Tree of Eternity now on the move to go to that 12 o'clock spot and perhaps take the last gold mine here on Echo Isle. Oh, that's rare. Sirens at 6:30 in the morning in my part of town. Coming back around here. Lich going after a gargantuan sea turtle creep camp, perhaps trying to get to level 5 on that Lich here. Death Knight will obviously stay at level 5, actually stealing some of the necessary experience, but perhaps being able to pick up a big item as the Lich now has that Ring of the Arch Magi for a little bit of bonus mana. Meanwhile, Warden is in position here. Gargoyles are going to quickly come over the top, perhaps try and put in some pressure as the Acolytes are still trying to stay alive here. Warden is going to get off a Fan of Knives. There's the blink in order to get away, and here we are, 78 supply compared to 50, as both sides are pushing their way through. Now remember, the Warden is still a bit fragile and doesn't have that many survivability items. Dual Pendants of Energy and the Circle of Nobility, the only survivability item, and I guess the Scroll of the Town Portal if things, or a TP just in case things go crazy. Now, the question is, can Undead burst down that Warden? And if it can, well, is that enough to tip things in favor? WFZ may be trying to give that a try here as the Gargoyles are going to try and engage. There goes another Frost Nova Death Coil, but the Warden pretty much shaking all of that off as the Acolytes now try to retreat back, perhaps get a little bit more gold going. Dryads continuing the fight here as well. Focusing down the Dryads, not necessarily a good thing, as all that's going to translate into our Spirit of Vengeances, who can stick around in the fight without really taking much damage. Skeletal minions are going to get taken down here. A couple of low hit point Gargoyles trying to hang back. Perhaps if they stay on a Blight while in a stone form, they'll be able to regenerate hit points quickly enough. All right, Spirit of Vengeance trying to catch up to some of those units, but such an annoying unit since it is invulnerable to damage and can still cause a bit of poking. I would say the Spirit should really go after these obsidian statues more than anything else. Deal full damage and not make it easily healed. Off to the north, Entangled Gold Mine finally completed. Been mining for about 20 seconds now. It is 2 bases to 2 bases still, but WFZ going to be running out of gold in that primary base soon. 77 supply compared to 62. Pretty much WFZ waiting on a miracle right now to try and finish things off, as the Warden still somehow able to stay alive after all this time. Dryads poking heavily on the Obsidian statue, trying to force a little bit of a disengagement here, as the Warden going to get off a big fan of knives against all of these units. Blink, well, saving that Warden right there. Druid of the Claw going to get taken down. Level 6 now on the Death Knight. We're going to be looking at level 3 Unholy Aura, as we're not going to be very, well, I guess those Animate Dead getting a lot of Crypt Fiends out could have perhaps caused a problem for those Dryads, but well, there isn't enough corpses out here on the battlefield for the Death Knight to really benefit either. Spirit of Vengeance still causing a bit of poking damage back and forth. 64 supply compared to 79. And it is 2 bases to 1, as the Warden going to retreat all the way back home, heal up at these Moonwells, get a bit more mana, and try and rinse and repeat the process. Dryads are upgraded to 3, even though you don't see it in the overlay. A bit of problems perhaps on the API servers hosting the overlays, as I'm probably one of the few people who actually uses this overlay. This is not a custom built, or this is a custom built overlay by the community. So when it doesn't work, it is most likely because, well, community support and community funding starting to go. All right. Anyways, Warden sitting at level 8, nearly level 9. Gonna go ahead and venture forth off to this side here. Perhaps try and finish off a ghoul or two. There's an Avatar of Vengeance. Finds the graveyard. Spirit of Vengeances will be summoned up here. And this is this is one of those situations where the graveyard ends up becoming a bit of a hindrance, as the Avatar of Vengeance has been looking for ways to summon spirits pretty much all game long. All right, the Spirit of Vengeance is now going to perhaps try to go after these gargoyles here. Try and engage. We can take a look, though. The Avatar of Vengeance is actually in a very precarious spot in the very far back. Could easily get cleaned up, and that with that taken down, so do all of the Spirit of Vengeances, and it's going to be a minute 45 before a new Avatar of Vengeance is summoned. That was a pretty big lucky break, or a misstep by the Night Elf, depending on how you look at it, as that Avatar of Vengeance, well, is the reason why most people fear a level 6 Warden. Dryad still making their way down. Full upgrade. Now getting the Wellspring upgrade here. 3/3 upgrades on those Dryads, as the Warden ready to move on out. Warden, nearly 700 mana. Gonna perhaps dive in, perhaps try and blink, cause some problems. All right, gonna open things up perhaps with the Fan of Knives. All right, wait for it. There's the Fan of Knives. There goes one Acolyte. There goes another Acolyte. Additional Acolyte's gonna get cleaned up here. Meanwhile, off to the north, multiple Ancient Protectors trying to protect against this onslaught of gargoyles. Dryads are in position to add in a little bit of poison piercing damage, as well as if the 45 to 54 piercing damage from the Ancient Protectors weren't enough. All right, both sides engaging, trying to limit the mining, as the Warden now going to be teleporting back off to the north. And now with that Warden, perhaps a blink and then get in a good Fan of Knives again. There's that Fan of Knives. Frost Nova onto the Warden. Both sides fighting their way through. Warden looks to back away, down to 472 hit points, but alive for now. All right, continuing to engage here. A little bit more damage. All right, the Warden could be in trouble. Going to try and blink back again. The Lich is at level 5, so level 3 Frost Nova is on the table, as that Warden is extremely fragile with only 1100 hit points. 1100 hit points with no invul potion, no potion of healing, and really not even rejuvenation to try and bounce back in these fights just quite yet. 2 bases, or 1 base to 1 now, as well, 1 base to 0, as there is nothing on the bottom left. This is going to be an all-in effort by WFZ, as we're looking at the gargoyles going into stone form to try and regenerate a bit of mana. There's a Death Coil Frost Nova straight up onto the Warden. Dryads trying to fight their way back. Gargoyles continuing to put in pressure there. There's another level 2 Shadow Strike. Warden is going to be able to back away. Yes, it is able to hide off on the side temporarily, as the Avatar of Vengeance. Death Coil Frost Nova, as the Warden able to blink away from there. Druid of the Claw going to get taken taken down. Death Knight still sitting at level 6. Both sides exchanging blows as the Warden, well, not finishing off these Obsidian statues, as the Lich has still plenty of mana. Perhaps going to try and launch another Frost Nova against that Warden. Are there enough corpses out here on the battlefield? There are. Going to be able to summon up a couple of Spirit of Vengeances. You can toast it. I'll come over, help in a second. All right, Lich continuing to engage here. Gargoyles trying to put in pressure. Ancient Protectors off to the side here. A little bit of damage back and forth. Lich could be in trouble as the Spirit of Vengeances are now going after Obsidian statues since they're not really moving. All right, there's a little bit of abolish magic right there. Warden trying to get into position. Are we going to see well, there's another Frost Nova, but the Warden seems to be okay. Does have an anti-magic potion for a little bit of extra absorbing power against the Death Knight and that Lich. Both sides fighting their way through. There's a blink doubling back around. Both sides fighting their way again. Dryads are not getting picked apart. 43 supply compared to 68 as the Death Knight, well, Death Knight able to chase after the Warden again. Invul potion right there, a full 15-second variety, and well, it's gonna feel like a forever until the the Fan of Knives could have been enough to finish off some more of those gargoyles, but the Scroll of Town Portal was just in time. All right, back on a Blight. Gargoyles trying to retreat back now. Gonna be able to, well, hang over Blight while with Unholy Aura, and while in stone form was regenerating quite a bit. Meanwhile, both sides getting ready to engage. We are at tier 3 now. Orb of Corruption finally available to apply that negative armor debuff onto some of those trailing units. Obsidian statues perhaps need to be repaired, as well as the Spirit of Vengeances are poking apart at these Obsidian statues since they are invulnerable and still trying to give a little bit of chase. All right, Avatar of Vengeance, 70 seconds. Gargoyles trying to finish off over here on the top right, but the army of Night Elf units is just simply too large at this point and stage in the game. All right, trying to finish off this Ancient Protector here. Meanwhile, Dryads coming in from behind, trying to cut off WFZ's route of escape. There's a Frost Nova, and that is going to be the game. WFZ unable to outlast against his opponent, as the Northern Gold Mine just gave enough life to Yange in order to just win with that level 9, nearly level 10 Warden. Let me know what you guys thought about this game in the comments below.